I would like black kids to be completely empowered, to know that they are beautiful in their blackness. But in order to do that, I don't have to make white kids feel bad for being white.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait, first of all, you're not going to speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. My name is Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. Here I was minding my own black business, perusing YouTube, and I see Condoleeza Rice destroys the View on DEI. Condoleeza Rice leaves them stunned and silent on CRT. And I went and checked out this video. It turns out that it is 2 years old. I have no idea why it has all of a sudden taken the right-wing blackosphere by storm, but I went and watched the video anyway. And you know what? I'm really glad that I did, because it was so instrumental in pinpointing exactly what my problem is with black conservatives. Let's check out the video. She opens up, coincidentally, talking about January 6th.
First of all, let me be very clear. I said at the time, January 6th was wrong. I called it an assault on law and order and an assault on our democratic processes. So full stop, it was wrong. Law enforcement will determine what happened there, and those who violated the law ought to be punished. Now, I think what Senator McConnell may be referencing is, yes, it's time to move on in a lot of ways. I'm one who believes that the American people are now concerned about their what we call kitchen table issues, the price of gasoline, inflation. We ought to move on to the next generation, move ahead and deal with the American people's issues.
Well, it's going to be kind of hard to move on when he keeps bringing it up.
Well, thank you very much. And you see the spirit from the hostages, and that's what they are, as hostages. They've been treated terribly and very unfairly, and you know that, and everybody knows that.
In fact, they've said so much that MAGA is now having trouble defending their own rhetoric about January 6th.
But you can't police people for being anti-Israel or pro-Israel. You can police people for violating the law, and we have seen some of that with some of these protests.
Okay, so you agree that people who break in and vandalize a building should be prosecuted?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm just checking because you did help raise money for people who did so on January 6th.
It's also kind of funny you keep saying, we'll get to the bottom of it, we'll get to the bottom of it.
It's really politically expedient for Mitch McConnell to say, let's move on, let's move on. The problem is that past will become prologue if we don't find out exactly what happened January 6th.
And we will.
So it's not time now.
We will find out.
We must find out before moving on.
We will find out. But I'm going to tell you, I live in California, not Washington, D.C. And the American people do have other concerns that we ought to be thinking about and talking about.
Respectfully,
and
Madam
so,
Secretary, I think
let me finish now, Sonny. I also know that as a government and as a country, we've got to be concerned about the things that are making life hard for Americans and hard for American families.
When the other hosts say, oh, we need to get to the bottom of it, and we will. When is the moment when it's okay to start investigating to get to the bottom of it? But you know what? I do see where you're coming from, because who wouldn't want to just move on? In fact, there isn't a sad day in America that you wouldn't want to just move on from, right? Like the Civil War or Jim Crow or the Chinese Exclusion Act or Japanese internment camps, Trail of Tears. Let's just move on. America needs to move forward. We need to focus on the things that are affecting us today. You wouldn't happen to have been in the Bush administration, would you? Oh, you were. That's right. You were in the Bush administration. Now all of a sudden it makes perfect sense, because like with the WMDs and the war in Iraq. Let's move on. We want to focus on gas prices. That makes a whole lot of sense. And you know what, Condoleezza, I actually did a little bit of research, and I found out, I don't know if you know this, but 100% of criminals in prison right now have been convicted of something that happened in the past. Let's just move on. You know what I mean? Let's just move on. You know what I mean? Look, we need to focus on the things that are affecting Americans right now.
First of all, parents ought to be involved in their children's
Yes, they should.
education. Their children are in school 7 hours. That's a very formative period. And I think parents ought to have a say. We used to have parent-teacher conferences. We used to have PTAs. There are lots of ways for parents to be involved, and they should be.
The parents are involved. They're banning books. And I mean, if you can't trust Mothers for Liberty to discern what's right for your child, then who can you trust?
My parents never thought I was going to grow up in a world without prejudice, but they also told me that's somebody else's problem, not yours. You're going to overcome it, and you are going to be anything you want to be. And that's the message that I think we ought to be sending to kids. One of the worries that I have about the way that we're talking about race is that it either seems so big that somehow white people now have to feel guilty for everything that happened in the past. I don't think that's very productive. Or black people have to feel disempowered by race.
Now we get to the heart of the matter, the victim mentality, which is something that gets thrown at people in my space all the time. You have a victim mentality like you found some sort of secret sauce to self-actualization. I do not have a victim mentality because I'm special. Here's the crazy thing. A victim mentality is a choice and is completely independent of acknowledging societal reality. I know it's crazy because of how special you convince yourself that you are. I know it's crazy. You can do both. You can acknowledge societal inequities without having a victim mentality. I know it's crazy. I know it's crazy. Just look at my own life. And I mention this just as a point of fact. But I went to one of the most prestigious high schools in America, certainly one of the most prestigious ones in Washington, D.C. I went to Columbia University where I was an economics major. I decided to go into comedy. I appeared on Comedy Central, David Letterman, Craig Ferguson. I decided to go into sports. I appeared on ESPN and NBC Sports. I decided to go into news and ended up here in D.C. at the CBS affiliate. And here I am right now podcasting, doing YouTube and all that good stuff. Does it sound like I have a victim mentality? Huh? Like, does it sound like I'm sitting around feeling bad and sorry for myself? Does it sound like that? Does it sound like I didn't aspire to great things? But apparently acknowledging societal trends going back hundreds of years means you have some sort of victim mentality. And the other thing that's kind of funny is that when people that have accomplished something speak in this space, say Colin Kaepernick or LeBron James or even Jamel Hill, what's the thing people toss out at them? Well, if America's so racist, look how good America has been to you. Oh, so people that have accomplished something can't speak on this because America has apparently been good to them. But then when people that you feel like haven't accomplished as much, they have a victim mentality. That's a trick bag. That's the trick bag. That is the trick bag. We're not going to hear from people if you haven't accomplished to a certain level because you have a victim mentality. But by virtue of your own success, no, I will not listen to the people that have accomplished something who feel the exact same way. That's a nice trick. Now, I want to go back to something that she said earlier.
My parents never thought I was going to grow up in a world without prejudice, but they also told me that's somebody else's problem, not yours.
Now, this makes a whole lot of sense because as a parent, I understand communicating to a child to lift any ceiling that she may perceive that she can do anything and it's somebody else's problem. But the reality is that it's all of our problem. Like, imagine if every black parent told their child that's somebody else's problem. Like, on an individual basis, you would feel empowered, but what you're also doing is abandoning the struggle for true equality and leaving it to the rest of us. That's a very I'm not black, I'm OJ way to view life. Look at our freedom fighters that we've had throughout history. Just pick anyone that comes to mind. Shirley Chisholm, Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Medgar Evers, Fred Hampton, obviously MLK. Just think about their parents telling them that, yes, society has not been fair to our kind, but that is somebody else's problem. Imagine imagine where we might be today if not for people like that who took it as all of our problem and decided it was up to them to do what they could to make things better for their kids, as opposed to just telling them it's somebody else's problem. Oh, but I forgot. It's magically fixed now. I forgot that it's magically fixed now. I totally forgot that we solved racism. When was it? 1987. Yeah, I forget that we totally solved racism in 1987, and now we don't need to talk about it. We just magically, people have been racist since the dawn of man. Men have been tribalists and have sought ways to exclude other groups since we first set foot on the earth. But all of a sudden, today, it's over.
I would like black kids to be completely empowered, to know that they are beautiful in their blackness. But in order to do that, I don't have to make white kids feel bad for being white. It goes back to how we teach the history.
That's what I'm saying.
We teach the good and we teach the bad of history.
Yep,
but
right.
what we don't do is make 7 and 10-year-olds feel that they are somehow bad people because of the color of their skin. We've been through that,
Yes.
and we don't need to do that again.
Okay, this is the second time we mentioned white kids feeling bad for their being white. Why do they feel bad? Huh? Why exactly are the white kids feeling bad? So is it the behavior of their forefathers was so criminal and savage that their ancestors feel bad, and we are working to evolve society by not acknowledging it? That's it? By not acknowledging it and not learning from it. That is how we move forward from behavior so wrong that their ancestors feel bad. We just gonna turn a blind eye. That's how we learn from it. Those who do not learn from history are destined to move forward. Is that how you believe that goes? Is that how you believe it goes? And that is, if learning and evolving from it is truly the goal, right? Like if the goal is moving forward as a society, then that is the logic that you would take towards that. But instead, it sounds like the goal is let's just move on, right? Your goal wouldn't be a January 6th-ish, let's just move on and turn the page now. Now, would it? That wouldn't be your approach. And it never ceases to amaze me that black people can experience this kind of racism that she talked about on her own. She talked about her own experience with racism. Black people can experience that, but white kids are too fragile to even hear about it. Wow, that is quite a line we are cutting through society. They are so delicate, they can't even hear about stuff that we actually are experiencing. Not actually go through it. We're not asking them to change places. We're not asking them to experience it, but to hear about it. That is too much. You tell me what it does for a kid's self-esteem to know that their experience is something that's too wretched for their fellow kid to even hear about.
It goes back to how we teach the history.
That's what I'm saying.
We teach the good and we teach the bad of history.
Yep,
But
right.
what we don't do is make 7 and 10-year-olds feel that they are somehow bad people because of the color of their skin. We've been through that.
How you gonna do that, Condi? I'm just like, how you gonna do that? How you gonna teach the good and bad of history if apparently it just leads to white kids feeling bad about themselves? Like how do you do that? I would love to know how you thread that needle. And I would also challenge you and say, if in fact you have children who do feel bad because of what they're learning in their history class, that is called empathy. We might actually be making steps towards a better society if you have people who feel something when they learn about the crimes of America's past. If not, you just got a generation of kids with no knowledge of history. And you tell me how that impacts how kids feel about themselves without the understanding of the explanation of our current situation. If you have no historical context for the realities of today's America, you tell me how that makes a kid feel about themselves. Oh, well, I guess black people just must be inferior. It's just something in the melanin. It's just inferior. Why do they all live on that certain part of town? Because they got the good basketball courts. Because they got the good basketball courts. That's why the black people all live over there. I don't know why none of them came over here, because it's nice over here and they have good groceries. I don't know why that is. It's just, they just love basketball. Huh, that's funny. That sounds exactly like right-wing media today. We already have that generation raised with no knowledge of history.